Guys, I am so pumped. Good night's sleep, full belly of food. We're soon gonna go and catch some fish. Hey, this is gonna be kind of a unique show. It's the first time on Edge that we ever did a show on private water. This winter up north, it's been brutal. The worst winter I've ever seen in Minnesota. Tom and Dave invited us down to Texas. They do a little bit of hunting, and I'm gonna do a lot of fishing. Dan naturally is gonna join me. But it was so good to get out of Minnesota. And I'm looking forward to fishing Dave Lake. I can't wait, man.
Yeah, there's bass in here, there's catfish, there's crappie, red ear. And what we're gonna do today is we're gonna look at what it takes to make a good lake, how it's managed, and some interesting facts about stocking that you may not know. So it'll be fun, let's go.
Today we're south of the Mason Dixon line in the great state of Texas. Known as the Lone Star State, it is the second largest one in the U.S., both in area and population. Over the years, Texas has had a wild and sordid history. From Mexican occupation and the famous fight at the Alamo, through the Civil War era, and into today's ongoing border battle, Texas has seen it all. Historically, 4 major industries shaped the Texas economy prior to World War II: cattle and bison, cotton, timber, and oil. Before and after the U.S. Civil War, the cattle industry, which Texas came to dominate, was a major economic driver for the state, thus creating the traditional image of the Texas cowboy. In the later 19th century, cotton and lumber grew to be major industries as the cattle industry became less lucrative. It was ultimately, though, the discovery of petroleum deposits, Spindletop in particular, that initiated an economic boom, which became the driving force behind the economy for much of the 20th century. With strong investments in universities, Texas developed into a diversified economy and high-tech industry in the mid-20th century. As of 2015, it is second on the list of the most Fortune 500 companies, with 54. With the growing base of industry, the state leads in many industries, including agriculture, petrochemicals, energy, computers, electronics, aerospace, and biomedical sciences. Texas has led the U.S. in state export revenue since 2002 and has the second highest gross state product. If Texas were a sovereign state, it would be the 10th largest economy in the world.
So we left Minnesota and there was still ice on the lakes. And like Al said, we had one of the worst winters, or the most snowfall that we've had in like 15 years. Just mountains of snow. And anyways, we're down here and the water temperature is 64 degrees. Some fish could be up on beds, but you'll look around and not knowing really how the lake is laid out. There's no map of it, So we're just kind of blind casting around here. Al's working the bank, moving with a lot of horizontal baits, and then just looking for bites, strikes, and then we'll come back on them a little bit later, maybe with some vertical baits. You'll notice that we're fishing on a lake. There's no outline, even though I got the Zero Lines SD card in here. But the interesting thing is we got the Auto Chart Live set up on here, and you can see how we're moving around the lake. And by the end of our trip, we're gonna have a really good detailed map of this lake. We'll be able to send it back to Dave, and he'll have his own personal Lake Master map. Got him. Good one. Nice.
I thought she was a good one. After a long winter, everything is a good one, Dan.
Yeah, right?
It's all a good one.
The biting fish.
The biting fish.
On a horizontal bait.
Yeah. Nice and clean looking fish. That management philosophy is so important in these little lakes. They're really fragile. You think about it, but their carrying capacity, what I mean by that, pounds of fish per acre in a lake like this down south has just amazed me in comparison to what we see up north.
The amount of fish a body of water can produce depends on several important factors, including fertility of the pond or lake, species present, including prey fish, and water temperature. Since bass, sunfish, and other warm water fish require warm water to grow, southern waters boost their growth and abundance. Factors that limit production include oxygen deficits, disease, and outside predation by birds or animals. In productive southern waters, densities of largemouth bass can run up to 50 pounds per acre. In northern waters, though, 15 pounds of bass per acre is considered high due to the reduced forage, lesser fertility, and overall colder water.
Whoop, there
Got
we
him?
go. Yeah.
Size?
I thought I felt something dancing back there. Well, just the average
Spinnerbait again.
spinnerbait. Lots of these guys in here, which is always fun, and some big mamas. That's kind of the fun part about this. When you set the hook, you never know what you're gonna get. Could be a big, gigantic one or just a fun one. And look at this, in milfoil. And it's interesting talking to Dave and the biologist that there has not been another boat on this lake, just the one little boat that he's got at the landing there. And somehow milfoil has gotten in here. Interesting. There we go.
Got him?
Yep. Ah. What we... It's so much fun. They're feisty. And look up there. There's Dave up there. He's watching us catch his pet fish. It's so cool. Ah!
That's that one just a little bit heavier than those others.
Yep,
Just
yep.
a little bit.
A little bit heavier than those other ones, but fun. Look how clean they are. Boy, they're just immaculate looking fish. Woo! We'll get her back in the water. Every fish is a fun fish. And I just wanted to take a second and talk to Dave and find out when he designed this lake and built this lake, what his thoughts were on it.
So in 2006, my wife and I bought this property, and the property had a lot of appeal. It had hunting, fishing, had a series of ponds, and behind you, you can see the lake. But at the time, it was two small ponds, very shallow, muddy, a lot of vegetation, separated by a pond dam going down the middle. And I just saw the promise of taking what was two swampy, shallow pieces of water and renovating them into something that could look like something like this. So the end game, as I had a vision of this being a 20 to 25 acre lake and fishery, and recognizing that most of the bodies of water in Texas are very shallow, that don't allow large numbers of fish. So as hard as it was to actually drain these two bodies of water, because there were fish in here, we cut the dam, drained it down to just a little bit of water in this thing holding a few fish, and we spent 3 months pulling scrapers and building the dam behind you into something that was probably 4 to 6 feet deep across to the lake. Now is the greatest depth is about 16 feet, and it's got a lot of 10, 12, and 14 foot water. We added, when the lake was drained, it provided the wonderful opportunity to provide structure. Either rock piles, wood, PVC, whatever was appropriate, and to develop structure for fish habitat. Along the shores, we did the same kind of thing. We planted growth in the watershed areas because there was so much erosion coming in. The lake was muddy and turbid, so there's been a lot of work to just creating grass along the shorelines and preventing erosion as well. So through the building of the lake, I've done multiple stockings. The first stocking we did was in 2009 after it first filled, and we brought in copper-nosed bluegill, we brought in a largemouth bass, we brought in channel cats, as well as red ear sunfish for forage. The bluegill and the red ear for keeping the bottom of the lake clean and doing what they do. The bluegill is forage for the bass, and plenty of channel cats as well. We did another stocking in 2015, at which time I actually put in some larger bass, some 1-pounders to get a little bit more aggressive around getting larger bass. So to make sure that this fishery continues to be productive with largemouth, again, you have to have a good forage base, and the copper-nosed bluegill are the best forage for this lake. So between supplemental feeding, possible future stockings to make sure that ratio continues to exist. And so they naturally spawn, and a lot of the work that we did on the lake was creating good spawning habitat, whether it's rocks for the catfish, whether it's the right kinds of base and rock and trees and flooded grass for the bluegill and bass. That was all part of the design of this thing when we started. So on Lake Dave, we've had a catch and release program because I always wanted to make sure that we had proper numbers. And again, what we've learned through the surveying process is that we do have to manage this fishery proper. But there will be years here where we will need to take fish out of this lake, and we will be eating a lot of largemouth bass at some point in time.
Ooh, got a good one. Good one. Yeah. Oh, of a spot locker, Dan. Oh,
Bulldog.
bulldog. Bulldog. Nice fish.
Yeah.
Come here, baby. Oh, you have no idea on how good, look at that, huh? You have no idea on how good that feels. Oh, now, I had 2 rolls and I missed them, but I didn't miss this one, Dano.
Yep.
I didn't miss this one. Ha.
Pretty looking fish.
Ooh, that's a nice one. Look at that. Woo! You know, the interesting thing about these ponds like this, and I mean, this lake is 23 acres. It's like a little lake. But when they're managed right, and you've got the right forage base, they're fragile. So you don't want to get too many fish. They're prolific. You could get overrun with stunted fish, and you don't see too many fish like this. The key to managing the predator, prey, the forage base and everything is really key, and you need almost a professional to come and tell you how to do this. Love it!
Well, Dave called me. You know, obviously he has a lake. You know, he's interested in quality bass fishing. So it's not as simple as just throwing the fish in there and letting them do their own thing. You know, you have to have some type of management. You have to manage the ratios of the forage to the predators, look at forage sizes. You know, basically we're here to help him produce a quality fishery. Dave wanted kind of a mixture of both. When you're managing strictly for trophy bass, you're kind of reducing your catch rates a little bit. So the goal here was to, you know, go out and catch a lot of fish, you know, ranging 15 to say 17, 18 inches long, plus the potential to catch, you know, a 10+ pounder. Predator to prey balance is important because you know, if you don't have the right forage in there, your bass are going to suffer at some point. A good general rule of thumb is that you should have 10 pounds of forage for every pound of bass in the lake. And if you can maintain that balance, your bass are going to continue to grow, and it's going to maximize their growth potential. The key to growing big bass is you want them to be able to eat the biggest thing they can fit in their mouth. So a bass is going to use a lot less energy if he's not having to travel very far to get his meals, and he wants a big meal. He doesn't want to move all over the lake chasing, you know, 2 to 3 inch bluegill. He's going to want to eat a 6 or 7 inch bluegill that's going to last him a while. So the key to growing big bass is to grow your bluegill as big as possible. And the best way to do that is by supplementing their diet with a floating fish food. You know, a fish pellet that has 32 to 40% protein. Well, there's a lot of species of bass. If you're strictly talking about largemouth bass, you know, you have 2 strains. You have the northern largemouth, and then you have the Florida bass. The Florida bass obviously grow, it's proven they grow a lot bigger. Depending on who you talk to, the Florida bass are a little bit more difficult to catch with hook and line, whereas the northern bass are more aggressive, easier to catch. You can grow a 10-pound plus northern bass if conditions are right. Somewhere in the middle would be what they call a F1 bass, which is the first generation offspring between a Florida bass and a northern strain bass. So an F1 is what we like because you kind of get the benefits of both. You get the aggressiveness of the northern strain, and then you have a little bit of the growth potential of the Florida bass.
Yeah, that's interesting. That Florida strain of bass grow real big, and my brother and his team and some of our guys went down to Mexico earlier this year, and those lakes down there are stocked with the Florida strain, and they get some real whoppers, and they eat big baits and big forage. The pond or lake industry is really interesting. It's big business too. If you look online, there's companies that will come out and design and build your entire lake, all the way down to these small little ponds that just sell feeders for your catfish in your little backyard pond. But it's really interesting, and people up in our neck of the woods don't think about it that much, but down south it's a big deal. Talking with some of our local DNR agents in our area, and we were talking about panfish and stuff like that, and how to protect them, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he was saying that some of the best panfish lakes are ones that'll have a freeze out, and then the panfish get reintroduced into there and they blossom in like 4 to 5 years. And I thought that was kind of interesting. And when I did the stocking on my lake, there's no panfish in, there's just tons of little tiny minnows and stuff like that. And when I had the stocking guy come in there and dump the fish in there 4 to 6 inches, he said that they'll be like 9 inches by the fall, like within a year. So when you introduce panfish into these brand new environments, they just explode.
Fish stocking comes in all shapes and sizes. To break it down to its basics, there is federal stocking programs ran by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Then there is statewide stocking programs ran by your state's DNR. Next is local stocking, which is supported by a lake association or a particular group of people. Finally, there's what could be termed personal or private stocking. This is what I did last spring. I live on a 25-acre natural environment lake. I reached out to 10,000 Lakes Aquaculture, which do some stocking in my region. They came out, assessed my body of water, and stocked the panfish best suited for my lake. They do all the paperwork and deal with the state to make sure everything is legal and up to spec. It's basically a pay-to-play program. You can buy as much fish as you want to stock your own lake.
So you saw me just dump that giant fish. I wish I could have showed it to you. That fish was all of 6 pounds, but the point is, in this dark water, don't be afraid to make multiple casts to a piece of cover, because a lot of times the strike zone is so small, it depends on the way that bait is coming through there. You can miss them by a half a foot and the fish won't bite it. So if you see something that looks fishy, make multiple casts on it. When you're fishing in the back of the boat, you got to. Oop, there he is. See? That is exactly what I'm talking about.
That's a nice one.
Yeah, we had fished through this spot. Whoa, 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 easy, Junior. We had fished through this spot 3 or 4 times. I dumped a big one. Al's in front of me throwing the exact same bait. And you just take it at a different angle and bingo, it produces. One thing, boy, it's so important in dark water.
Got him.
Nice. more.
Afternoon bite going a little bit.
Afternoon bite.
You know, spring of the year, and even though it ain't sunny, yeah, you know, the afternoon gets a little bit better.
Voila. Terminator.
You know, we're fishing right now. This body of water is pretty darn stained, and we're definitely using, you know, baits that make a lot of noise, and you know, blades and chatter and jigs type of baits, and something that those fish here has been the best for us. And we're water stained. We're throwing all bait casting. We use all St. Croix rigged up with a Daiwas on them, a variety of different Daiwas and St. Croix. We got Mojos, we got Elites, we got a number of different rods. They're all spooled up predominantly with heavy monofilament here. This is that new mono from Suffolk, that advanced mono. You know, and here we're throwing heavy stuff, you know, 14 to 20. You know, real simple, not brain surgery. The baits are real simple for what we've seen here. We're just casting, covering water, and having fun doing it.
You know, some people may be intimidated by bait casting rods because of their experience a long time ago. With the older bait casting reels, you'd cast and like they would almost explode every single time if you didn't have them balanced right and you weren't throwing it right. But now, today's modern bait casting reels are so technically advanced. The novice fisherman can take them out and cast with them, you know, and not have backlashes. It's amazing, you know. So if you've never fished with a bait casting reel or outfit, now is the time to try it because the technology is there. As you can see, we've been fishing for a while, and well, let me back up a second. And points of interest, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is where we caught our biggest fish. But when you zoom in, you can see how we mapped out the lake, and you'll see we got a deeper hole over here. 12 foot, 9 foot, you know, then Dave dug all this stuff out, and then you got some shallower flats around here. And then if you go up north, you can see, oh, look at the path that we did, crazy. And you can see it flattens out over here. You got 6 foot, 6 foot, 6 foot, 3 foot back in here. And this is where it gradually shallows up in that upper part. You got 3 foot back in here. We dumped a big bass right there. You got a 6 foot, kind of 6 foot hole right here. But it's a super cool feature for charting, in this case, what wasn't a lake but is now a lake.
Danny was saying, nah, you ain't gonna get one on a lizard. That time of the year. Old school. Old school. When I gotta get bit, you gotta get bit. This time of the year, when these fish are coming in, big bite lizards. You don't leave home without one. That color, they love it. North, south, east, west, stained water, all you need.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, got him?
Yep, I
Good
can't
one.
tell this up. Yep,
Not bad.
not bad.
Not bad.
Nice. Fire walker. That is unbelievable. We had fished through there so many times, and you come back through there at a different angle. It's just amazing how that produces. This guy been caught before.
Oh, good one.
Got him, got him, got him.
Oh,
That is Dave's pet fish. That is Dave's pet fish.
Thinking about you, Dave.
Oh, nice. Oh,
Actually, when I set the hook, I said this one is for Dave. Woo! How's that one look, huh? You know, it's amazing how many fish you can get in a lake like this when it's managed right. Yeah, you know, they're so much fun. You know, when you can get a leg balanced right like this. That's why I love to come down south when we can and get to fish some of these ponds and pits like this. You know, it's hard to get fish like this up north where we live. Yeah, we get some, you know, we can get a couple 5-6 pounders regularly, but when you get to pushing 7 pounds, don't happen much by us, you know. Down here, it does.
Sometimes you gotta ask yourself, is the juice worth the squeeze? The day-and-a-half drive was well worth the trip. Both Al and I were jonesing for some soft water action after the never-ending winter. For our first day on the water, we got a great base map of the lake. Got a number of high percentage spots, caught a ton of fish, did some target practicing, blew some stuff up, hunted feral hogs, watched deer, ate and slept like kings. On the second day of our Texas adventure, the weather showed her ugly teeth, but Al and I were not to be derailed.
So right now the wind's blowing pretty hard today and the weather dropped about 30 degrees, so we're fishing on the ranch here. Dave's got 8 ponds like this that are small, and they have bluegills in them and crappies and all sorts of different animals, or fish rather. And this is the camp pond, so you can see the camp in the backdrop. And it's also got the barn that he keeps all of his equipment in for managing the ranch. And Dave was saying they would stay in there and then just come down here and catch as many fish as you want sometimes.
Al and I are pretty simple. As long as there's open water and biting fish, we don't care if we're on shore or in a boat. It's just nice to have something pulling on your line non-stop. We spent about 3 hours catching bluegills, bass, and some nice crappies before the sun started to set and I had to get into the stand to see if I could shoot a feral hog. Hog hunting has become big business all across the South, and especially in Texas. There is currently an estimated population in excess of 1.5 million feral hogs here. The cost of a license to hunt them is very reasonable, and in my opinion, the meat from feral hogs is extremely tasty. You just have to harvest a smaller juvenile. One thing is for sure, they're not as dumb as you might think. 3 of us sat in separate stands on 4 different outings, and Dave finally dropped the hammer. Now we get to go home with some meat, and the nice thing is the weather finally blew itself out, and we had one last day to fish.
Yep.
Big fish out of it. Big fish. Big
Way
fish,
back
Dave.
in there.
Big fish.
Yeah. Woo!
Good fish.
Woo! He was way up in there.
What a difference, huh?
Yeah. Ooh.
Get her in.
I'm
Get her in.
trying.
And say, oh, no, nice fish.
Oh yeah. That fish was way back up in there. I mean, like underneath that tree practically. Look at that dude. Awesome. What a difference a day makes. 2 days ago, water temperature was, what was it, 64 degrees? Today, it's 56 degrees. The water temperature, or the air temperature dropped how much? It was 70 and
75, and it was about 35 this morning.
35 this morning.
They're taking a while for them to wake up.
Yep, these small little lakes and ponds like this, they warm up fast and they cool down fast.
And the bite gets on fast.
And the
or
bite
it
gets
cools
on
down
fast and it shuts off fast. Like within a few hours it can heat up. We'll put her back. Oh, there we go.
Got him?
Yo, yo.
Big one?
Fair. This is another good sized one like that. This is a different country heard from, I think. Yeah. Dave will be happy to see these in here. These are the up and comers. Whoa. Look at that dude. Nice. These are the ones, these fish grow pretty darn quick in these small environments, don't they? You get the right forage in there, these dudes explode, man. Look at that mouth.
Ooh. Got him.
I get
It ain't a quanger, but it ain't a bad one. Like them other ones you've been getting, Dan. You know, like you've had that. This is that spot that big one was at. You know, coming back through and see if we can get her. Just another nice one. Same spot in there, you know, same spot, same thing. And these fish slowed down from yesterday, I'll tell you that. But you were too, if it dropped, temperature dropped 35 degrees and your home dropped down 10 degrees colder, you'd slow down a little bit too. But it's still been fun. You know, what do we got? 2 more hours to fish, then we're gonna pull the boat out, get all packed up and head back up north. Not a good thought, but gotta do what you gotta do. It's been a fun run, man, fun run. Hey, I hope you learned a few things today, that if you got some private water and you wanna do some planting for any kind of fish, not only bass, and we might give you a few ideas that you can gather together with your neighbors and build your own dream lake.
So I was talking to Dave, and this is the first time I spent an extended period of time in Texas, and I just loved it. We all loved it. Nick loved it. Al loved it. We had a ton of fun, and Al spent a number of years down here. But I wanted to ask Dave his 5 favorite things that he loves about Texas, starting at 5.
Starting at 5. So, you know, I was blessed to work for a really great company in a great industry, and our company moved here because it has just a tremendous business climate. So the ability to have a successful career in a state that supports business was just a wonderful thing for myself, my career, and my family. Probably next, love to golf, love to hunt, love to fish, and we can do that year-round.
Right.
We've got a couple months where it gets a little bit chilly and cold, but to be outdoors and be able to enjoy the outdoors and do that is just really special to us. It's got an incredible standard of living here, so your ability to support your family, have a house, and the things that you like to do and afford. It's a wonderful, wonderful climate, wonderful economy, and so that's really special.
Yeah, that's 3.
That's 3.
Now you have 2.
So it was a great place to raise a family.
Oh, okay.
So my girls were 1 and 3 when we moved from Minnesota, and so Texas is what they know.
Yeah.
And we loved Minnesota, and we loved the schools, and we loved the culture, but Texas is really special. People are so genuine and kind, and so we really liked the ability to raise our kids in a place like this.
And number 1?
Wow. Because number 1 might have been 2 and 3.
The ability to hunt and do whatever you want, 365, you stack all that stuff up, and it
and let me put it down the end on it, because I'm now retired.
Yeah.
So be able to retire here
Yeah.
is really special.
Yeah.
Because my wife and I will be able to enjoy all the things that we like to do. We have a granddaughter now that lives in Texas.
Cool.
So there's a wonderful reason to be in Texas,
Yeah.
so we can see our new grandchild as well. And that might be the most special thing, is to be able to see our grandchild and daughter and family, and enjoy our retirement here.
Well, thank you for having us. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Dan. It's been a pleasure.
Great.